this is the next day. I just refrigerated this stuff, kept it overnight. Add it to a pot of water, and I'm going to boil it for about 30 or 40 minutes. There's a little too much water in there, but I was emptying the water jug, so it'll still work. A lot of it's going to boil away. It's not technically going to be like broth because I didn't roast the bones, and I'm not going to boil it long enough to call it broth. But it's going to be chicken flavored water, and then all the meat that comes off of that bone is going to go back into the soup. So it works. Let that boil for about 30 minutes. In my "Hey look, I have an herb garden" video, I mentioned that this does not look at all like cilantro, but they call it cilantro. It smells and it tastes just like cilantro, so we use it as cilantro. I don't know. I'm just throwing in a little bit of basil. It's strong, so I'm not going to use much. I think I need more rosemary than that, but that, I don't know, that might be enough. You're supposed to use, if you use fresh, you need 3 times as much. Like you use a teaspoon of dried, you would use a tablespoon of fresh. So yeah, I need to go get a little more, but I'm just going to go ahead and just kind of chop that up a little bit. Usually the dried, I throw it in the mortar and pestle just to break it up. Helps get the flavor out. And who wants to chew on sticks anyway? But with the fresh, I'm just going to chop it a little bit. It'll be good. And I'm going to get a little more than that. Again, I'm not measuring anything because it's soup. It's not science. After about 30 minutes, I use a wooden spoon and just scoop all the bones and skin and everything out of the water. If you've got a cutting board with a side on it, it's really nice because then the water can either pour back into the pan or sit on the cutting board and drain into the sink. Leave the water in the pan because that was the whole point, is you want some nice flavoring in the water. This is my mixed vegetables and some bell pepper. All of this is stored in the freezer. I chop up bell peppers and freeze them. And a little over a cup of veggies. So we're just going to add that into the water. Spices are ready to go. I've got my dry spices here, the fresh spices there. It varies every time I make it. For the recipe, I've got a couple of spices written down, but I just was putting something for, you know, the recipe maker needed the main ingredients for the calorie count. Spices, I pretty much wing it. I'll write down what I use, but it will be different every time I make it, depending on my mood, depending on what I have. Actually, if you're making soup and you're not cleaning out your refrigerator, you're making a mistake, because whatever, you got some leftovers, you got veggies, you got different kind of meats, throw it all in. It's soup. You should be doing it once a week just to get rid of all the leftovers. I'm going to let this cool for just a minute. The skin just gets set aside because I don't keep it. The meat that came off, I will chop up a little smaller. All of this was still just on the bone. I don't add any meat to this. And then I will take as much of the meat off of this as I can, the bone, and then the bones and skin get thrown out to the dogs. The dogs love soup day. But this was 3 breasts, so it's got quite a bit of meat was left over. You see, this is just the meat right here, and then whatever meat I get off of here. So it'll turn out. And then this is what we call pancit molo strips. It is just basically an egg noodle, and I throw about a cup of those in for the last like 9 minutes just to make some, throw some noodles in there. You can put any kind of noodle. This is just one they have here. It's for a local favorite they call pancit molo that I've never had. I should probably buy some. It's a special soup dish they make. I've never tried it. But veggies are in the water now. Since they were frozen, I'm just letting them kind of cook while I chop this up. I'll throw this back in, throw that in. About 10 minutes later, I'll throw this in for 10 minutes. And then it's done. So, you know, it's really easy, really fast. And like I said, I don't roast the bones, and I don't do it long enough so it's not chicken broth. It's basically chicken flavored water, but for my soup that I'm making right now, it's good enough. Right now this has just got all the spices and the veggies in it. I let this go and just let it boil while I mess with the bones. I try and be very careful. This is the leftover bones and the skin, so the dogs get that side. This is all the meat. We get this side. Don't get that mixed up. Make for a very crunchy, weird soup. I try and make sure I get no bone, no cartilage, anything in this meat. I would rather the dogs get a little bit of meat in their bones than I get, I don't want any bones or cartilage in the meat. So I try and go through this pretty carefully. That's actually a decent amount of meat for not adding any meat. You saw when I made the chicken breast, this was all just the scraps that were left over. Some of it was pieces that were loose, some of it was on the bone. And so it's just boiled. It's nothing fancy, but it goes good in the soup. This makes about 3 servings. You can see that's a decent amount of meat for each serving. So we're going to dump this in now, and then we'll let that go for about 10 minutes, and then we'll add about a cup of noodles, and 10 minutes after that we're going to have a snack. Soup for merienda. I have to throw the scraps in 2 very separate areas. It's all gone because they will fight over the scraps. There's a little bit. Oh, you still got a lot left, dude. I threw them evenly, but Sam ate slow today. Coco ate fast, and Coco is nice. He will not go steal the scraps from Sam. Sam, on the other hand, if he finishes first, will try and take them. Usually the chickens come over here and try and eat some too, and that's kind of upsetting that the chickens will eat chicken. See? He's growling. Coco's not even over there and he's growling. Sam, don't be a dick. He's not a very nice dog. This one's pretty cool, but really old and sickly. Those are not my dogs, by the way. They belong to the uncle. And I don't know if they feed them or not, but I throw scraps out. I think they do too. Added the chicken, so you see it's got the chicken, all the veggies, and the spices. So it's all pretty much done. We're just going to let that cook, kind of simmer for, I'll turn down the heat, let it simmer for 10 or 15 minutes, and then throw in the noodles for the last 10. It's a very simple, quick soup. I call this about a cup of noodles. It is a little tall. But as you can see, there's a lot of empty space in there because you can't pack them down or they break. Half the time I don't measure them, but the cup measure was out, so I used it. Soup's been boiling. I just took a taste of it. It's quite nice. And like I said, I really don't use a recipe, so it is different every time. When I add the noodles, I will set a timer for 9 minutes so the noodles are done. I call this 3 servings. Because I have a very large bowl. She eats a much smaller bowl than I do. For human portions, this is probably 4 portions. But it's very quick, very easy. Actually, filming it slowed me down. And I will spend probably twice as long editing this video than it took me to cook the soup. It's really quick, it's really simple. So I usually try and do it once a week with the chicken bones, because why throw them out if you can make a great pot of soup? Okay, 10 minutes later the noodles are done and we got soup. Like I said, that it's actually kind of a big pot, but I call it 3 servings because I have a giant bowl I use. Maybe I shouldn't, but it's good. Her servings are smaller, mine are bigger. But I forget the exact on this, but I think it's under 150 calories a serving, I think. I mean, it's even calling this a serving. So as you can see, it's got all the veggies, chicken, the noodles, the turned out quite nice. There's a couple bell peppers floating around. Yeah, it's all good. So, time for a snack. Enjoy your day in paradise.